Okay, welcome everyone. I start off with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge, appreciate that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kma'ki First Nation, and we have occupied this territory since time immemorial. Call to order. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No. Approval of agenda? Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor McAleer. All in favor? Councillor Ron, yea, nay?
In favor?
Okay. So we do have. Yep, just stand up there, Councillor Twill.
Yeah. So when you're talking about approval of agenda, you're talking for the approval of the agenda for the open meeting, correct?
For both open and closed. So the agenda is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, business arising from the closed session.
Okay.
7 is the adjournment. That's the agenda.
Well, I do have,
We already passed the
no,
resolution.
no, but.
No,
but
we already passed the
I thought you
resolution.
were doing it for the open.
Yep, no,
And, no, but I do have a couple of questions.
yeah. Well, resolution was already passed. Okay, we got a
So can I bring it up before we go into a closed door session?
it says motion to move into closed session. There will be a motion on the floor. Yep,
So I can address it then?
yep.
Okay, fair.
Okay, we have one environment and sustainability resolution. Adoption of the 2025 Active Transportation Plan Vision. So do you want to read that first, CAO?
Your Worship, Environment Sustainability Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Trevor McKinnon and seconded by Councillor Mitchell Tweel. Let it be resolved, the Council adopts the 2025 Active Transportation Plan Vision, requests staff create recommendations through annual budgeting processes to support its implementation, and requests staff to provide annual progress report on its implementation, and that the Mayor and the CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay, resolution's on the floor. Any questions, comments? Questions called? Oh. If you do want to ask something, please don't, excuse me. No, excuse me. This is also for the online live stream, so we will try to talk louder. So please try to cooperate with us. Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Yeah, just let me pull the resolution back up so I can look at it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I see. Thank you. I just want to make sure that what we are approving this evening is the general consensus that we want to move forward on an active transportation plan and vision. But there were a lot of examples of things we may or may not do, but those will still come back to council and to public engagement before it actually continues. Is that correct, Your Worship?
So with the new procurement bylaw, when we approve the budget, those items do not come back to us. There will be plans that may go forward, and I think we have two members, or Councillor McKinnon or Councillor Tweel, that can explain it, but the procurement bylaw is that anything that we put in the budget related to active transportation, any of public works, that goes through that process. But in terms of getting input, feedback on that process, that will take place during the budget process. Councillor Beck?
I think I'll let Jessica.
Oh, no. Did you want to ask a question?
No, I was just gonna, I think I'll let Jessica or Trevor
Okay.
comment first.
I'm gonna
I have a bit of a different understanding, but anyway.
Good. Jessica?
Sure.
Sure, I can, through you, Mayor Brown, to Deputy Mayor Yankoff. So you're approving the vision of the active transportation plan. We will not proceed with any of these projects without community consultation, without speaking to council about design ideas and getting your input. So rest assured, we're not going to go rebuild a street without you knowing about it. Anna, do you want to add any more to that?
If this active transportation plan is adopted, then when it comes to each operational and capital budget, we will be making staff recommendations that are in line with this plan to implement this plan. Should those budgets annually be approved, then we will move forward with making those projects happen. My understanding is that for any change to the public right-of-way, that the design also needs to be approved by council.
Yeah. So again, to be clear, it's when it goes into the budget, we'll have an opportunity during the budget process to discuss any ideas, whether it's public works, environment sustainability, parks, recreation, and leisure. Any other questions? Councillor Twill.
I agreed to move the motion on to council for council discussion. I think the plan is a good starting point. Is the plan complete from my perspective? No, it's not. But I think it's a good starting point, and I guess my major concern is that from an active transportation pathway perspective, what's not illustrated here as a top priority, which to my mind is a top priority, is the active transportation pathway proposed for the west side of Mount Edward Road. So I wanted to bring that up for the public record. I'll be hosting a community meeting in the new year to bring that vision to the community. Mount Edward Road is an extremely busy road with industrial, commercial, service vehicles, normal vehicles. The intensity of the traffic is overwhelming on Mount Edward Road. Case in point is we have a police officer there every day on Mount Edward Road because the intensity of that traffic, the speeding traffic. So it's great to say, we do have this, to my mind, this is a great blueprint. It's a great starting point. However, it's not complete. Okay. So I hope to fill in that major void sometime in the new year to bring that vision forward. I think what's really important is in the collaboration with Public Works, the Planning Department, Parks and Recreation, when we have development taking place in our city and we have residents that come here and tell us it's not safe on our side of the street because there is no sidewalks, there is no transportation pathway, and it's unsafe. Yet we're approving all this development, but we're not putting in the necessary infrastructure to accommodate that development. So I think that's something that we have to work on this year. CAO, you know all about Mount Edward Road. So we have major development taking place in our city. Unfortunately, what's happened is we're always playing catch-up, trying to provide infrastructure, and it's a major challenge. So I just wanted to bring that forward once again to inform council as to, I think this plan has a lot of merit. I just don't believe it's complete in the final analysis, and that's something I'm going to be working towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Duran, you're good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Question? Question's called. All those in favor?
In favor?
Okay, 10-0. And do you have another resolution there? CAO? Oh, presentation first. Falls under Public Works. Did you want to introduce it there, Councillor Twill? Okay.
Tonight, we're going to hear a presentation from Public Works, senior management, and from CBCL that have been mandated to come up with an analysis as to stormwater challenges in our city that have been a plaguing problem in our city for the past number of years. Tonight, we're going to hear that presentation. We're going to look at some recommendations and guidelines for stormwater management. There's going to be a focus on Queen Street, which is near and dear to my heart. The flooding that has taken place in this community, particularly between Reserve Street to Conley, even stretching up as far as Pond Street. The residents in this community have had to, unfortunately, deal with rising water anytime there's a rain event or any type of a storm. It's very troublesome for the people that live in this community. So there is no protection. The only thing we can do is just barricade the street off when the water rises up to 3 and 4 feet, maybe even more so. So this plan that's going to be illustrated here tonight gives council, I would suggest, a thumbnail sketch as to what the challenges are, what are some of the strategies, and then after the conclusion of the presentation and questions from council, it'll go back to Public Works, and then we'll formulate the strategy as to where we go from there. I will say it's a very complex, challenge, to say the least. It's not going to happen overnight, but nonetheless, this is the blueprint to move forward. So without further ado, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to our Public Works and CBCL, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight.
Albert, could you please introduce your co-patriots
Yes, thank you, Chair. And
speak in the mic so everybody can hear?
yes, thank you, Chair, and Your Worship. That was a great starting point here and explanation of our presentation today. So just to introduce everybody, this is Avery Jilks with CBCL Limited and Jody McLeod with CBCL Limited, two engineers with that company that have been obtained by the city to work on two different projects for us that we'll be touching on today. The first one is stormwater guidelines, which is preparing standardized guidelines for stormwater design in new developments. These requirements are for achieving net zero and peak discharge to provide a consistent design approach for engineers. The intent is to ensure a uniform design, review and construction of stormwater systems across the city. And then, as Councillor Tweel stated, another great case study that was a separate project that we utilized CBCL to study was Queen Street. They encountered a detailed assessment was completed to understand the cause of reoccurring standing water on that street. The consultant carried out field work, data collection, and stormwater modeling for that street. And the final report identifies the most vulnerable locations and presents 3 feasible mitigation options to guide future investment. The hope and our thought was that bringing both of these projects together into one presentation, as they do really touch on each other a lot, and the guidelines speak to the study speaks to the guidelines. So we're hoping that bringing all of this information, which is, again, this presentation is at first for information only for council. The hope after this is that these guidelines do get adopted into policy, which will be brought back through Public Works Committee and then council as a whole, and then hopefully adopted. And then the Queen Street study is a different project that we will be bringing through capital budget resources over the next number of years as we initiate working on this, working on fixing this issue here through a number of other projects. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Avery to start the presentation, and I'll just ask that we hold all questions till the end. Thank you.
Okay, Avery.
Thanks, Albert. Thanks, everybody, for having us here today. As Albert mentioned, we're here to talk about the Queen Street Stormwater Management Study, as well as the stormwater management guidelines for new developments in the city of Charlottetown. So, brief outline of what we're going to discuss today. Start with a brief explanation of some key stormwater terms and some overview that we're going to be frequently used throughout the presentation. We'll then begin with the Queen Street study, brief overview of the system, as well as the results of our capacity analysis and our findings, and then we'll move into the recommended improvement approach, and we'll follow that with the stormwater management guidelines and then some questions and discussions. So just a few key terms that will be brought up frequently throughout the presentation. First one's return period. So return period is average time between recurring events, and in stormwater, it's typically referred to in years. Next is a 10-year storm, which essentially is a precipitation event that has a 10% chance of occurring in any given year. To put that in perspective, for the Charlottetown area, that's approximately 100 millimeters of rainfall in a 24-hour period. A 100-year storm is the same thing as a 10-year storm, except it has a 1% chance of occurring. And a design storm takes data from previous rainfall events and tries to match peak intensity. And for perspective, a 100-year storm in Charlottetown historically is about 150 millimeters in a 24-hour period. The next is a major storm system. So major storm systems are typically sized to convey the 100-year storm event, and generally they include large watercourses, roadways, street right-of-ways, and major crossings. We have followed major systems. We have minor storm systems, which are most of the underground piping that collects stormwater and discharge to the discharge points within the system, and they are typically sized for a 10-year storm, which has a 10% chance of occurring any given year. Finally, climate change. Climate change has been mentioned lots. But basically, when we're talking about stormwater runoff and storm systems in the Charlottetown area, it's generally accepted that a 30% increase is applied to historical data to account for climate change. We like to show this schematic to help understand how urban storm systems are designed and intended to operate. As can be seen in the top image, the minor system is essentially the underground piping and catch basins, which is typically designed to handle a 10-year storm. When this minor system is exceeded in our larger return period events, then falls under the lower schematic, which uses the street right-of-way and the actual street cross-section to convey stormwater away. We just like to illustrate this to show that typically streets and stormwater systems are designed such that water can and will flow within the right-of-way, but within the right-of-way under large return period events such that it doesn't impact private property. Finally, from a stormwater overview, just a little schematic between pre and post development. Can be seen on the left image here that under a pre-development conditions, natural state, lots of grass, trees, that about 10% of rainfall, it's converted to runoff, which we see in streams and everything else. And then once an area is developed and that grass and trees are changed to hard surfaces such as buildings and asphalt, there's a significant increase in runoff as a result of that. And this is what we're going to talk about when we talk about stormwater management guidelines is mitigating the impacts of this increase in runoff, which is typically done through the use of stormwater detention. So we'll get right into the Queen Street Stormwater Study. We started the study in, I think it was late 2023, with 5 study objectives. They were to identify the locations within the study area that are most susceptible to flooding, develop a minimum of 3 innovative and viable options for managing stormwater and mitigating flooding risks on the Queen Street within the study area, provide conceptual designs, estimated costs, and potential environmental impact of the 3 improvement options, evaluate the feasibility and effectiveness of each option, and provide a recommendation on an improvement approach. The study area, as outlined in the image here, was essentially Queen Street from Passmore to Pond Street, and as far as Des Brisset Crescent. We'll start with some background context on how the area has developed over the past 150 years to better understand the system. So it can be seen in the figure on the left from the Historical Atlas of 1880 that 145 years ago the area was sparsely developed, and the Queen Street stormwater system was a natural watercourse known as Spring Park Brook. And Government Pond was substantially larger than we see it today. Jumping ahead 145 years to the image on the right, which is from our study, the area is now densely developed, and the natural watercourse has been infilled or replaced with underground piping. There are two primary stormwater trunk systems that flow through the study area. The first is the Navy Key system, which used to be the old combined sewer. In the late 2010s, it was separated. There's now a dedicated stormwater system, and it starts at around UPEI and flows all the way down through the study area into the Navy Key outfall. Then the Victoria Park system, which discharges at Victoria Park and starts at around the downstream end of the study area around Green Street, was initially installed in the late 1980s after large rainfall events caused surcharging in the Navy system, which resulted in sanitary sewage being left behind after the rainfall event on residents' properties. And so the Victoria Park system was installed to increase the capacity for these larger storm sewer events. So that's the background. A little bit, without getting into any of the details, we completed the following task to analyze the system and come up with a recommended improvement approach. We started with a background information review consisting of record drawings, GIS data, and then we did some field data collection to supplement the information and fill any data gaps. We then developed a one-dimensional stormwater model that was used as a base starting point for a two-dimensional model creation. Once we had the 1D model made, we collected rainfall data and put in flow meters in the system such that the stormwater model can be calibrated. We then built a two-dimensional model, which was used to identify areas prone to flooding, as well as complete the capacity analysis. Once we had all this background information and the stormwater model created, we completed an options assessment for improvement options in the area, and the options assessment were reviewed and completed under the three main categories for stormwater management, which are stormwater conveyance, simply getting this runoff from point A to point B, stormwater detention, so holding stormwater during the peak of the storm to be discharged at a slower rate later, and stormwater retention, which promotes infiltration and holds stormwater and allows it to infiltrate back into the ground. So the image on the screen now is showing the results of our two-dimensional capacity analysis that was completed. So this map was showing a 5-year historical storm. So it is not a 10-year storm, which means it's a lesser stormfall event. And you can see in the image that the blue areas indicate stormwater that is on the street and above the storm sewer system. And the red pipes are pipes that are over 100% capacity at the peak of the storm from the analysis. So generally speaking, under the 5-year historical storm, which again, a historical storm does not have any increase for climate change, you can see that water is ponding in the study area and the piping network is over capacity, which generally aligns with what is seen out there with ponding water on lower return period rainfall events. So after all of the background information and the stormwater modeling, there were 5 key findings that resulted from the analysis. The first was that the system within the study area, as well as the trunk itself, has undersized storm mains and leads and has insufficient capacity to handle typical minor system designs as well as larger return period events. insufficient minor storm system in the area. There are quite a few catch basins and storm inlets. However, there's insufficient amount, and while some of the inlets in the catch basins have too small pipe diameters. So, for perspective, a storm system from a catch basin, typically a minimum size for a pipe outlet is 300 millimeter, and in this area, some of the catch basins have 100 millimeter diameter pipes from the catch basin into the storm main. The street cross sections have insufficient capacity to convey large return period storm events. So, referring back to that first schematic we've shown, once the minor system the capacity is exceeded, the major system generally runs through your street right away. It in that area does not have capacity to handle those flows. All current issues are anticipated to increase in severity and frequency with climate change. Our assessment was completed under historical conditions in order to fully display the impacts on the system. And areas of higher risk of damage due to flooding were identified in the area of Spring Park Road from Stewart Drive to Desborough Crescent, properties on Queen Street from Passmore to Bayfield, and properties on Queen Street from Douglas to Reserve. So after looking at various options and developing 3 options for costing and comparison, the recommended improvement approach to stormwater management on Queen Street was developed, and if implemented, it is recommended that it be undertaken in a 3-stage approach to achieve the desired level of service. And it should be noted that all 3 stages would be required to achieve the desired level of service for the Queen Street area. The next few slides will go into each stage in a little more detail. So stage 1, starting with stage 1, due to the capacity limitations in the existing system and the topography in the area, a full major and minor system capacity upgrade in the study area is recommended, which would be a street reconstruction as well as a capacity increase to the underground stormwater piping systems in the area. Another thing to note with the street reconstruction, currently there's a low point located along Queen Street at the Reserve Street intersection, which does not have an outlet. So when the minor system's exceeded, water will pond there and could impact private property. So a full street reconstruction could move this low point such that it has an outlet to Desborough Park and flow the way it should flow overland down towards the harbor, following generally the Spring Park Brook watercourse, or the former Spring Park Brook watercourse. Following the stage 1, stage 2 is a drainage area reduction. So it is recommended that the amount of water flowing to the Queen Street area be reduced, which can be achieved by installing a new storm system on University Avenue that directs stormwater flows to Euston Street and subsequently discharges to the harbor. This could be completed, and is recommended to be completed in parallel with planned upgrades to University Avenue and subsequently Euston Street. Stormwater flowing along University Avenue and then Euston Street is preferred over Queen Street due to the lack of a sag curve in the profile. Essentially, the topography, although flat in areas, does continuously slope along University to Euston and then to the harbor, which aids in mitigating ponding water. Finally, after the capacity upgrade and drainage area reduction to mitigate impacts in the study area, stormwater flow has to be conveyed to the harbor to mitigate the impacts to property downstream of the area. So a capacity increase within that study area without improving the downstream system will just move the problem downstream. So currently the storm system flows through, so in the area from, I'll step back a minute, from the area from Green Street to Brighton Road in Euston, it flows through private property, under some buildings in some areas, right next to existing foundations, which poses a significant challenge to simply make the pipe bigger, as well as the low-lying topography of the area, as it used to be a watercourse, also is a challenge for just making the pipe bigger in the area. Additionally, with climate change and sea level rise, properties within the 3.0 meter contour are at risk of flooding. So taking all this into consideration in the historical atlas and what the area used to look like, it is recommended that a stream reclamation project be undertaken in this area in order to provide sufficient capacity for stormwater to be discharged to the harbor safely under larger return period events. Estimated investment. So we did some high-level costing, order of magnitude costing. Stage 1 in the realm of 6.4 million. Stage 2, which, if you recall, is the system along University in Houston, $1 million, and that is just the price for the storm system itself, as it was assumed that this would be completed in parallel with a planned upgrade to these streets. And then finally, stage 3, the stream reclamation project to get stormwater away from the area, around 18.4 million. It should be noted that of that 18.4 million, 12 million would be for the property purchase required for this, and the construction cost of 6.4, for an overall estimated investment of 25.8. To close the presentation on the Queen Street study, just a few other recommendations or some best management practices for stormwater management. First, reduce runoff and volume by using green, innovative stormwater approaches such as rain gardens, increase vegetated swales and green space. Net zero increase for new developments, which we're going to talk about here. This is the segue into the stormwater management guidelines for the city of Charlottetown. And it's recommended that the city develop a set of standards and guidelines to be followed for future development. Moving into the stormwater management guidelines for new developments. A few slides here, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion and questions. So the image on the left is from the open source online CRIS mapping, and it's a 100-year future storm event shown from that mapping, and it's just, we'd like to show that to display the impacts that stormwater flow can have on existing urban areas. So into the stormwater management guidelines and the stormwater management approach. So the guidelines would indicate that a net zero increase is desired for all future developments in the city of Charlottetown. The objective of this requirement is to ensure that post-development flows do not exceed that of pre-development conditions. And the reason for that is to mitigate impacts to existing city infrastructure as well as existing downstream properties. And it should be noted that this storm management approach is consistent with the province's current guidelines, which have been in place for a number of years now, and it is also in alignment with many other major municipalities across Atlantic Canada. Discharging on a publicly owned infrastructure would fall back to the net zero increase required for all residential and non-residential developments that discharge into publicly owned infrastructure. Discharge onto adjacent private property. The guidelines would state that all reasonable steps shall be taken to prevent stormwater discharge onto adjacent private property. If this is impractical, however, due to topography, which in some instances it is, then all the stormwater must be in a controlled drainage path. A stormwater easement must be obtained between the property owners and any other authority having jurisdiction, and net zero increase is required. Finally, discharging into a wetland or watercourse. So if a development is discharging directly into an existing wetland or a watercourse, it may be exempt from the net zero increase, which is consistent with the province's guidelines, provided that an analysis is completed to confirm the wetland or watercourse has capacity for the increase in flow. Erosion sediment control measures are in place to mitigate the impacts. Approval from the Department of Environment is received, and it is looked at and then no negative impacts will occur to existing properties downstream. Any new developments that would discharge directly into the Charlottetown Harbor would be exempt from the net zero increase policy. Climate change. So climate change and an increase in the severity of climate change for the Charlottetown area, three main things related to stormwater that are looked at are an increase in precipitation, sea level rise, and storm surge. It is recognizing that this should be accommodated in the planning and design of any municipal stormwater infrastructure. To coincide with recommendations from Environment and Climate Change Canada, as well as the Canadian Standards Association, and future anticipated updates to the province's guidelines, it's recommended that a temperature scaling approach be used for climate change, which is essentially a thermodynamic equation which applies a percentage increase in precipitation per degree of warming. And as mentioned earlier, in Charlottetown, this is approximately a 30% increase projected to the year 2100. And finally, just to close out the presentation, I thought we'd show a map from the recently completed stormwater data collection and modeling project, which shows the city's existing system kind of in the downtown area under a 5-year historical storm to show that the existing storm systems have worked well for the city. However, an increase in flow because of an increase in density upstream and development will have negative impacts on the system as at capacity under a 5-year storm event, historical storm event. And I would like to note that this is better than some other municipalities in Atlantic Canada. So from an older urban setting, there are locations that would love to be able to get the 5-year historical storm through the system. So it's not a dire situation. It's just something to note. And that's a brief overview of a lot of information. So we'll open up the floor to some questions and some discussion.
Albert, is it Avery? Avery? Jody, did you want to add anything, or are you leaving it to the expert? Okay. Any questions, comments? Councillor Beck?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I just want to go back to just looking for a little bit more understanding on page 32, under the stream reclamation downstream. And tied to that, the $12 million of property purchase you mentioned under the Stage 3 investment. Can you elaborate on that for me? I don't quite understand what's actually taking place there.
Sure. So the property purchase, so in the image on the left on the screen now, is the area that would be the 3.0 meter contour. And in order to mitigate the impacts of flooding and provide sufficient capacity, it'd be recommended that the properties within that cyan hatched area be purchased, as they will be at risk of flooding with storm surge and with climate change as the future progresses, as well as to provide a sufficient area to allow for stormwater flow. Because it should be noted also that this area in the storm system in this location is tidal, so that the tidal range and the existing buried infrastructure from the harbor extends all the way up to Green Street. So essentially within this hatched area, under high tide, the hydraulic grade line is affected up that far, and then even further in storm surge. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. alarmingly so. How many properties are we talking that are in the path of this? Like, because that's a fairly big chunk. You're talking from the south side of Green Street down to pretty much Terry Fox Drive, where the outflow goes out into the Charlottetown Harbor.
Yep, that's correct. Jody might.
Have we identified the properties that are recommended for purchase?
Yeah, I'll just speak to that. I think we have at a first glance, again, this is preliminary
introduction.
and it
Yeah.
will be in the report. The contour is there. We haven't gone into detail to map out each individual property because we're not at that stage yet.
Okay.
Yeah, because this will go back to the Standing Committee for Public Works, correct? Avery, just on that, there's a 900 millimeter pipe that was installed, plus a box culvert that went from corner of Houston and Terry Fox right to the Victoria Park Promenade. So I thought that was installed. I thought that's why they installed that 900 millimeter pipe with, I think it's a 4x8 or a 5x8 box culvert. Was that what? That was the reason it was installed, correct?
Correct. It was installed in the late 80s. And it
No,
was to,
1995.
oh, it was 95, sorry. And it was to increase the capacity of the system, and it did significantly. Our study area was not in this location. However, we did look at the capacity of that, and with that box culvert install, which was from the harbor to Brighton and Houston, it has the capacity for a 10-year storm for that system itself.
Okay, so what about the 900 millimeter pipe that goes to the north?
Then from there up to Green Street, that system would only have like approximately a 5-year capacity. And a lot of that is to do with tidal influence on the system.
Okay. Councilor Bernard.
Thank you. Thanks, Avery, for the report. It is a lot. I'm just wondering, so we've had consultants look at this before over the years. The issue being then, and you had touched on it with some of the historical maps, was the grade. So Victoria Park, Navy Key, when the tide is high and we're getting a rain event, it can't drain. So I'm not really understanding here, if we're in that same situation, how that's going to drain.
So if the tide is high and you have a big rainfall event, that was the reason for the stream reclamation project to allow that area to allow water to detain there essentially with a high tide and not impact adjacent property. So
But when we get a heavy rain event, it does impact it, right?
it does currently, yep.
Yeah.
And then, so in order to mitigate those impacts, that within that 3.0 meter contour, which is projected for storm surge, then you would have to reclaim that land such that there's no property impact in there, so stormwater can come and go freely through that system in order to provide capacity and mitigate the impacts. Because storm surge as well as the tidal influence extends up that far.
So where are you saying, when you say the water should flow over land?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So then does it go over people's properties? Or is that the properties you're saying we should purchase?
That would be the property purchase in that area, exactly.
Okay, so my other question, Avery, was just, you had mentioned the Reserve Street intersection. I think you said it was low. So if I heard you right, you wanted to have that built up? Did I get that right, or?
Yes, but built up such that the low point is moved slightly away from that area to give it an outlet to Des Park. So essentially when stormwater flows, when the minor system is exceeded and stormwater is flowing down the street right of way, right now, if the low point's located at reserve, then it has to back up until it can get over the hump and flow away. Like to move that low point slightly downstream, it's about, I think it's 60 or 70 meters, to allow it an outlet to Costello Lane. So we would be raising the profile at Reserve Street, but lowering the profile at Costello Lane.
So it wouldn't raise it so much that it would go over other people's property and flood that out too. Are these other properties you suggest the city purchases? Or is this just moving the water down so it gets into Des Brisets and over the hump?
Yes, within the right of way. Yeah.
So in a heavy rain event, if that was to happen.
Counselor, just put your mic up there, closer to you, so we can hear you. Go ahead. Want to make
So in another large rain event, and the tide is in, you're confident that that water can still get out?
Provided that the downstream area within that contour identified is reclaimed as stream and natural watercourse.
Because that usually fills up now.
You're talking about the area below Green, like from Green Street to the
Yeah,
harbor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, because when the pipe system, it wouldn't have, basically when the tide comes up, there doesn't have any capacity, the pipe's
Right.
full, yeah, and it has to flow over land, which would impact private property.
And that's where I'm having trouble. If we, put larger pipes in and we do what you suggested, I'm having trouble when we have our impact is usually when we have a high tide and heavy rain event at the same time, so perfect storm. And I'm having trouble trying to understand that if we do all this work and we have that event again, which is the perfect storm, the high tide, the heavy rain, how that's still going to get out. That's where I'm having a little bit of trouble. And so you can put it over land all you want, but if it doesn't get out, it's going to back up.
Yeah, if I'll just jump in, I think it's the three stages of this. So basically, you're not gonna, the only way to change the water being able to flow out is if we raise the island up, right? Which we can't do. So
Raise the what up, Albert?
raise the island up or change the elevation of the outlet. The outlet is set
Yes,
on
yes.
out at Navy Key, so we have to work our way back. So right now, with the stream reclamation, that would be the area that floods whenever we do have that perfect storm that you're stating. So instead of all these other areas flooding, like on Queen Street, on Reserve, on Des Brisets, it would be, we're controlling the area that floods, so it would be in the stream. And the outer contour is far enough, that's what we're modeling for the perfect 100-year storm. Upsizing all the pipes leading to it is also part of that. So that also helps with making sure, because if you don't upsize the pipes and that stream reclamation, the outer contour is just going to get larger and larger.
So then what you're saying is that the stream would end up being like a holding pond until the tide goes back down then? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, so the stream, instead of,
Because I don't think you can lower the pipe or raise the
No.
pipe. I mean, you're not going to have the grade.
no,
for it to run out.
exactly, you're bound with what you have, so instead of, and when the tide comes in, the tide comes in.
Right,
So
okay.
instead of allowing that tide to impact the properties and flood the properties.
And that's why you want to buy the properties. And you're basically making a holding pattern for all the water to flow to until the tide goes out and have it run out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Avery, most of this property is reclaimed land, except Victoria Park. Victoria Park was an island because Governor's Pond was a huge pond. Anyway, so now what you're saying is take that reclaimed land and turn it back into a retention pond, what it was originally 100 years ago. Oh, okay. Okay. Jody?
No, you're correct there. Much of the parking lot, down by the Jones Building, that was all pond at one point, and it was stream all the way up, all the way up to Summer Street, essentially. So just a bit of a side note, I guess. This is becoming more commonplace for municipalities to take a look at these low-lying areas that now have water problems and try to determine whether or not you can add system capacity or whether it makes more sense to begin to retreat. And I know when it comes to climate change discussions, we probably hear that a lot in the news about adapt or retreat. This is somewhat a similar situation where you would look at the problem. How do you address it? We can't raise the island, right? So putting in extra capacity would have a significant impact on all these properties anyhow. So retreat is somewhat the most practical approach that we're looking at on this anyway. So and putting it back to where it was. That's why it was a stream originally.
Councillor Twill?
Thank you. Could we go back to the three streets that you identified? Talked about Stewart and Queen, Desperce. Okay, so properties in Queen, Passmore to Bayfield, properties in Queen Street from Douglas to Reserve. What about from Reserve all the ways up to Pond Street, and Valley? I mean, it's pretty challenging there too, as far as, but you haven't got that listed here. Is that still factored into the equation where I've just outlined? Because right now, that is probably our most vulnerable area. It's very precarious, very troublesome for the residents.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just step in and then Avery can add anything if I miss it. I think just we noted those three streets as, being higher risk, but if you look at the map, we do have a lot of the streets that you mentioned there are included as well, so.
They're all included.
Yes.
So we're not
yes.
missing them. We're not missing Conley, we're not missing Valley, we're not missing going up past Conley on the way to Pond. We're not missing that, right?
Correct. No, we're, all of those streets are in the area of influence. And, the hope is, we've just outlined those three as being the ones that, are at the highest risk right now. They're the ones that are the lowest lying or getting the most flooding. So, but, the hope is that as we implement all of these changes, that the issue gets resolved for all of that area and surrounding areas in the whole city, so.
Just a few years ago, we did the separation of the stormwater sanitary sewer. That was the second phase of the project from the Brighton separation, something I lobbied hard for. That was to take away stormwater going to the treatment plant, which caused significant trouble for the oyster fisheries. So want to keep that in mind too, that there have been improvements by the separation of the sanitary sewer and stormwater. So this what you're proposing here, I just want to make sure we get it right. I want to make sure we get it right, because the residents in this community, anytime there's a mention of a storm surge or a rain surge or any type of a storm, there's a lot of anxiety in this community. There's a lot of anxiety, and the residents are on pins and needles. So want to make sure that we send a message to the community that we're taking this very seriously, that this is a good plan. It's not going to happen overnight. It's very complex, but nonetheless, it's a three-phased approach, what you've outlined here today. So I want to make sure we get that message to the community that we're taking this very, very seriously. Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
And I'd just like to add, just thank you to CBCL as well. And just to reiterate Avery's point again, you guys have seen a lot of, red lines and issues and flooding in these maps, but it shouldn't be a cause of concern. We're trying to plan for the future and try to improve our infrastructure. you've seen that CBCL and others have done great work in collecting asset management in our city, and we continue to do it as we go forward. But we aren't, as Avery mentioned, we're not doing bad. We're just preparing so that we can, things don't get worse, because climate change is real, and it is causing our infrastructure to fail in certain instances, and it is, we do need to take a look at all of this. So, thank you, Avery and Jody.
So there was the Brighton Combined Sanitary Storm Sewer that was done in 2003. Spring Park, I think, Jody, you guys did that. Combines stormwater sanitary system. I thought this was going to address all these flooding issues, but obviously it really did it?
Yeah, if I can address that. So the combined sewer separation projects that were done
Yeah.
really were done so that in high rainfall events, sewage didn't get overflown. There wasn't overflows that put sewage into the Charlottetown Harbor.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
those projects really took the sanitary sewer system out of the storm system and put it in its own dedicated system. That provided a little bit of extra capacity
Correct.
in the remaining system, but not near enough. The two main factors that we're faced with now is still increased development, but it's also the fact that our storms are becoming more intense with higher rainfall events, more frequent, and the discharge of that water is going into the Charlottetown Harbor, which has storm surges and a higher water level. So that causes more of a backup into the system, and it is resulting in what we're seeing here in the Queen Street area. And the storm sewer system in the Queen Street area is too small, essentially. It should be larger.
So Jody, we have to start right away because stage one is $6.4 million, 2025 dollars, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 million is 2025
Correct.
dollars.
Yeah.
And that's only for materials. That's not for labor or anything. That's what Avery said, because that's on University Avenue.
That would include the pipe installation.
It will.
But what's not included in those numbers would be a complete reconstruction of the roadway.
Yeah.
So we're assuming that you would do University Avenue work, for instance, the storm sewer installation on University, when you decided that you were going to do a major overhaul of University Avenue, which has been talked about for quite some time, I know, at City Hall over the years. So when that road needs its major overhaul, then you would add the storm system.
Right.
We didn't include the cost for that
Okay.
road overhaul.
But Avery, as you know, stormwater drainage plans are required for any new development. That's been since 2004, 2005. But that's not affecting this area because the development's already in place. Well, thank you very much. Very informative. Thank you. Thanks, Jody. Avery, Albert. Okay. So number 5, motion to move into a closed session. Closed session as per section 119, subsection 1B and E of the Municipal Government Act. B, information received in confidence, which if disclosed would likely be prejudicial to the municipality or parties involved. E, a matter still under consideration on which the council has not yet publicly announced a decision and about which discussion in public would likely prejudice a municipality's ability to carry out its negotiations. The following are fire underwriter study 119E, that's where that falls under. Agreement with Public Safety Canada, that falls under section 119, subsection 1E. And a request from the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction that is covered under section 119, subsection 1B of the Municipal Government Act. I need someone to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Bernard, second by Councillor McKinnon. Councillor Twill, motion's on the floor.
Okay. Thank you. I wish to bring the council's attention regarding this motion that's put on the floor. I have a motion related to transparency and public safety, that the portion of the meeting concerning the fire underwriters report currently listed for a closed-door session be moved to an open-door session, as the report is final, independently prepared, and does not fall under any of the permissible closed meeting exemptions listed in Section 119(1) of the Municipal Government Act. Council meetings must be public unless there are very specific closed-door meeting exemption. Closed sessions must always be the exception and not the norm, and only when disclosure would cause clear harm. In this case, the fire underwriter's report is A, a completed study, B, conducted by an independent third party, C, a public fire protection and risk to residents, D, it's not a personal matter, E, not a legal matter, it's not a negotiation, it's not a confidential commercial data belonging to a private corporation. So there's no real valid reason under Section 119(1) to exclude the public. This is information that belongs to the people of Charlottetown. If there's nothing to hide, we should not hide it. So, Mr. Mayor, I've outlined why 119 is not applicable in this particular case. So I wanted to bring that forward. I believe that the report, as I stated, is an independent report and should be discussed in a public forum. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table with regards to that particular item.
Thank you.
I want to address a second item, but I'd like to address this one here first.
Make it two items?
Yes, sir.
Is it under agreement with Public Safety Canada or request from Canadian Centre?
No,
on
the second
substance
item.
abuse? What's that?
The second one.
Oh, you wanted to do, well, why don't you bring the both of them up?
Well,
Go
can we
ahead.
deal with each one of them separately?
No, we'll do them all together.
Well,
Because it's one motion.
pardon me?
It's one motion.
Okay, well, as you know, we've all received phone calls and emails from the recreational gun users, lack of a better description, and they're very concerned about what's taking place in a closed-door session. They would like to be part of the discussions. It's not an unreasonable request. I know a lot of these people, like I'm sure a lot of people in this chamber know them, very well-respected, law-abiding citizens. They'd like to have an opportunity to meet with city council, consult with council, before council arrives at any decisions which would take place in a closed-door session. They're very open, they're very transparent. They want to work with city council. They want to work with police department. They want to work with our senior management here at City Hall. Again, it's not an unreasonable request. I believe that by collaborating with this particular constituency makes council better informed, makes them better informed, and it's an open process. So I know discussions did take place at the Protective Services Committee. I happened to be here when that discussion took place. That was done in a public forum. Members of council, that was done in a public forum. Yes, it was. What?
It was closed
No.
session. That wasn't closed session.
Well,
She's the
then,
chair.
Why was, okay, but the mayor was quoted.
What about what? That was
That
before the meeting.
Well, nonetheless, the
Yeah,
mayor
no.
was quoted.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just wanting to
No, I know.
clarify that.
Yeah,
Okay, but
It was in closed session.
Okay, but you were
Yep.
quoted
Yep.
in The Guardian.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's already public,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, the gun owners would like to have, the opportunity, I mean, they're here tonight, like to have the opportunity to meet with city council before we arrive at any conclusions or any decisions. And then that way they're informed, we're informed, and maybe, with better communications, better consideration, I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
that's why I bring these two major concerns forward with respect to going behind closed doors, the underwriter's report, and we have the very well-respected gun owners that are here, that are good law-abiding citizens, and they want to have an opportunity to talk to city council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Councillor Bernard.
Just on that, what I would say is there is no report on what's going to be talked about, so I assume that when it's under 119(1)E, that it's a possibility to register municipalities' ability to carry out negotiations. There's no decision being made. There's never a decision made in a closed session. It's just information.
Thank you,
Before any
Mr.
decision
McCrae.
is made, it will go public. There'll be public conversations before any decision will be made. So I don't know what's in this report. That's why I guess we'll be hearing from who's ever doing the presentation.
What's that? Go again?
We won't be making any decisions, is what I'm saying. There's no decision to be made, and legally, we can't make any decisions in a closed forum. It will have to go to a public forum, whatever that is. But there was no report here. I guess who's ever here going to do the report will be issuing it, so.
Okay, Councillor Twill?
Yeah.
Yes, I think, but you got to be careful, because you can't have your discussions in a closed-door session, open up the door, and then pass a resolution in a public forum.
Councillor Twill, can I just get someone to ask who's ever, Mr. McCrae, did you already ask? Because it's interrupting. Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
So, you're right, any decision has to be done in a public forum, but there's case law which prohibits council from having the majority of their discussions, all the discussions, presentations of two issues that I just outlined in a closed-door session, as opposed to having it done in a public forum, because people want to know what the essence of the discussion was, what was the logic, what was the rationale, what were the concerns, what were the compelling points that were illustrated in the discussion. Because if you just have your discussions in a closed-door session and then open the door afterwards and pass a resolution, that's not really open and transparent. And I want to caution council, there is case law which makes this illegal, and there's case law in Ontario. I brought this up before.
We should pass that on to the province. Go ahead, Councillor Bernard.
No, I was just going to say that there's, since we're in the Municipalities Act, we haven't been having a discussion in a closed forum, then voting on it, making a change. I mean, this will go back to whatever committee is responsible, probably police, public services, with recommendation to be made to come back to council for a full public discussion.
Yep.
So. I just don't want to give the impression that we meet behind closed doors and then we make a decision when nobody's here. I just don't want to give that
Those
impression.
days are gone. Deputy?
Just to dovetail on what Councillor Twill has said, we do have a report that does state that we are passing a resolution on the second item on the agenda, the assault-style firearms program. I mean, there is a report in there that says that there's a staff recommendation and a resolution. So just to clarify, is that discussion happening in closed session and then we're going to go back out and pass a resolution?
If there is a resolution, it will be in the open session.
Okay, so then to Councillor Twill's question on that, how come that discussion wouldn't be an open since it was already reported locally in the paper?
What was reported was not from the meeting. What was reported was that there was talk, concern raised by the city, and I was quoted. was not from the meeting. I want to make that clear. There's some illusion that I left a closed meeting and spoke about it. No, it was.
Okay.
It was a statement that was sent out by, I don't know, chief, CAO, was it sent out by our public relations or communications officer, or was it released by Public Safety Canada? That's where it came from. Wasn't from the meeting, not at all.
Gotcha. So just for a follow-up for my direct question then, why, why then would the assault-style firearms report, just help me understand how come that is in a closed session? I'm sure the chair can answer for
We'll
me.
go to the chair, yep.
It was in the closed session for my committee. I agree. I'm okay with having open discussion, but there was a potential contractual agreement that would have to be made between a municipality and federal government. So I think that was what was just, we were looking at was, first of all, there's been no decision made whether or not we're interested in participating in this program. That's why it's here this evening, to have an opportunity to get some clarifications asked, to look at what the contract would look like. So anytime we have contractual agreement, it's usually done in a closed session first, so we can have an opportunity to look at it before a decision is made. I'm assuming, but if I'm wrong in why it's enclosed, that would be the only reason I would see we would have this discussion in any kind of closed. No decision has been made.
Councillor Duran, I can't see you. Do you have any comments? No?
No, I don't, Mayor Brown. We just, we talked about it at our committee meeting and moved it forward here for discussion. And that's where we ended it.
Okay.
Your worship, if I could just,
Can hear you.
yeah, just through you to the Chair of Practice Services, as referenced in the agenda, 119 E, there is a matter still under consideration by council. That's why it's enclosed.
You have to go there? Okay. Question? Questions, Carl? Okay. I'm moving into closed session. Yep, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran,
In favor?
all against? And make note that Councillor McKinnon left the meeting, so Councillor Twill's against. Okay. Closed session, so we have to close the doors, and I'm going to have to ask
And, sir,
Okay. Counselor Beck, did you want to move the resolution to go to adjournment? Moved by Counselor Beck, seconded by Counselor McCabe. All in favor?